Hi everybody, this is the Football Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, the Hut, and welcome back to the Football Hut. And this is another video on the insane asylum that is known as WFAN.
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha, they're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha, to the funny farm.
Now here at the Football Hut, we've been this is a Giants channel, but a controversy popped up about a week and a half ago involving Giants legend Carl Banks. Now, as you know, Carl Banks was one of the great Giants of all time. He played on two Super Bowl winning teams in 1986 and 1991. He's part of the Ring of Honor at the MetLife Stadium and in the Giants lore. He's not a Hall of Famer, which is very surprising. Well, another non-Hall of Famer, a guy, he's in the Ring of Honor with the Cincinnati Bengals, Boomer Esiason. Boomer, who's part of the biggest like collapse in football history, in NFL history, Super Bowl history, lost Super Bowl 21 to the legendary Joe Montana, and we'll get into Boomer momentarily, but this is a Boomer video. I know one thing about Boomer: don't make fun of him. If you make fun of him, he might come and wring your neck, and two, he might wring your neck. But here we got from Awful Announcer. He is now chimed in. He basically runs that radio station. Every personality is scared of Boomer. They don't make fun of Boomer. Aha. But on Friday, a random caller, decided to make fun of Boomer. And it was such a weak make fun of. It was such a weak goof. Making fun of the fact that he puts almond milk in his coffee. Wow, that's side-splittingly funny. I know one thing. Again, I've said this in many videos. His partner, Greg Giannotti, makes fun of everybody out that radio station, but never his partner, Boomer, because he knows Boomer will wring his neck physically. Headline from Awful Announcing. Boomer Esiason thinks Carl Banks should have told WFAN host he felt disrespected. Men should do that. Men don't go out and tattle and put crap on the internet. No, you just strangle people on the air and try to break their hand. Everyone is just about ready to put a bow on Carl Banks' tenure as a weekly WFAN guest, paid guest by the way, but not before Boomer Esiason gets to weigh in. Wednesday afternoon, during what was supposed to be Banks' weekly spot on WFAN, host Sal the Spaz Licata announced a former New York Giants linebacker decided to end the segment in the wake of last week's tense exchange over Kayvon Thibodeau. While Banks resigned from his he's a co-worker, paid weekly segment with Licata and Brandon Tierney, he will continue to be the lead analyst on Giants radio broadcast, which airs on WFAN. A couple of things. Okay. Banks came in with all kinds of data to support the fact that Kayvon Thibodeau has been improving in terms of his play. He's making an impact. Spaz and Tierney disagree with him. They said their opinion was that he's a bust as a draft pick. But Banks had proof, and we saw the proof on this past Sunday when the Giants had a terrible loss against the Jets, but Thibodeau had a great game. Had 3 sacks in the game. He has 8.5 sacks for the season. But the thing is that they didn't like that. And instead of Spaz taking a deep breath and calming the situation, he hung up on one of his coworkers. Okay? Now this has sort of gone back and forth. Carl was on a channel called The Entertainer. I'm sure they watched it. I know that the people at WFAN watched this channel, and they watched the Baseball Hut and the Baseball Hut 2. I know that for a fact now. They are starting to react to your host, goofing on them, making fun of them. First of all, it was Spaz blocking me on Twitter. And then we had this situation that happened today on Friday. This video's going on Saturday, where at the end of this segment, this sort of 3-minute segment where Boomer lectures Carl Banks. Carl won 2 Super Bowls, Boomer. Never forget that. You blew a Super Bowl. Never forget that. He has more rings than you do. You got 0 rings. But there's an effect that this channel is having on them because social media, as you know, is powerful. You never know who's watching your videos. So on Thursday morning, the craziest person on the fan, his partner, Greg Giannotti, this is what the article says, went on a borderline unhinged rant over the whole, he was screaming over the whole situation, brutally mocking the weekly interviews Banks had contributed to WFN for well over a decade. Unfortunately, Giannotti's co-host, Boomer Esiason, wasn't there to hear it or partake. Now, I would mention, Giannotti said during this rant that he was the producer of Benigno and Evan Roberts show, and he basically let it be known that Benigno and Evan hated the segment. And he let it be known that every person that did the segment with Banks hated it. He even said, Carl's a nice guy, but it's boring. So who's tattling what? Now, Greg complained and was saying, I'm sticking up for my friends. No, asshole, you work for the CBS Corporation. You're sticking up for your corporation because Spaz embarrassed an African American. I have a question. Would they have done this to Phil Simms? Probably not. Would they have done this to Eli Manning? Probably not. Just saying, they have to get in front of this because they know that this was really bad. This is not about buzz. This is bad optics. And Giannotti does not like the fact that and Spaz is not happy that he's being criticized. They don't like it when they're being criticized. You notice. You've been following and paying attention. And I would also mention that Spaz Licata has also gone after Pete Alonso, and he's not apologized. In fact, their radio station has doubled down on saying that he's toxic. That the article continues. Esiason should have the opportunity to weigh in because, like Banks, Esiason has long contributed to radio over reliance on conducting boring interviews with current and former athletes. Quote, now, Boomer has this thing. Boomer has this thing that he does when he's talking, where he pretends he doesn't know what's going on. And he'll ask stupid questions, and he'll get stupid answers from Greg. And Boomer does this all the time. He'll ask things that he already knows the answers to. Quote, they're still fighting. Esiason asked Friday morning about the feuding trio of Licata, Tierney, and Banks. Quote, I thought they called him and made amends. They called him and made amends, and they apologized to him, and supposedly he accepted the apology. So Boomer asks a question and then answers his own question this time. Giannotti explained that hours after Banks informed WFAN his decision to end his weekly spots. Former New York Daily News columnist Gary Myers tweeted the Giants legend resigned from the segment, citing that he was completely disrespected by the hosts. Maybe he changed his mind. Did you ever think of that? Quote, this is from Norman. They called him and apologized and spoke to him, Esiason said, seemingly confused by the ongoing feud. Well, let me tell you something. Boomer's had a couple of concussions, so he can be confused by any little thing. See, that's something they would not mention. They would not make fun. That's not funny. No, it's not, because they're not in on the joke. Both of them, man to man, like men do. Men should do. Men should do that. Men don't go out and tattle and put crap on the internet like he was disrespected. Then Carl should have told him that. I think he kind of told him that. They're not doing it face to face, Boomer. Doing it over the phone. And what kind of man hangs up on another man? So, the 6'5" flannel-wearing former NFL MVP Boomer Esiason is certainly a man's man. He certainly likes to bully people, and he bullies that radio station. Even if he eats his steak well done and drinks his coffee with almond milk. And while Esiason wasn't nearly as maddened as Giannotti about the situation, preaching how a man should act to a two-time Super Bowl champion linebacker seems like a reach. Quote, I think Carl will be happy, Norman said about Banks' exiting his weekly WFAN segment. He's probably pretty happy he doesn't have to do it now. It's a pain in the ass. Well, they kind of tell you certain things about how they look at their job. That a lot of the stuff they do with their job is terrible. There's a lot of people who love to do their job. Not me, of course. I'm I like goofing on them. It's more fun to goof on these people than anything else. But Boomer should remember who's his daddy. Well, we know whose daddy is. Joe Montana. Joe Montana took his lunch. He had that game firmly in his grasp in 1989. He had that game. The Super Bowl 21, wasn't it? I know it was 1989. But Norman had the game. And he lost it out of his grasp. He's the kind of guy, that's a man. Joe Montana was a man. He took that game and he put it in his back pocket and it's on his mantelpiece. And not only there, but it's also in Canton, by the way. Boom will never get to Canton. Carl Banks will get to Canton before Boomer will. And again, Carl Banks has 2 Super Bowls. Boomer has 0. No one ever brings that up. Again, nobody at the radio station makes fun of Boomer. Especially Greg Giannotti. He never makes fun of Boomer. This was the first time at the end of this segment that they went back and forth for the 3 minutes if you see it. They took a call. And the call was to make fun of Boomer. But it's not anyone that works at the radio station. It's just a random caller. Just like that. Let me tell you something. When you call into the radio stations, and it doesn't matter what radio station it is, either political or sports, whatever it is, they screen the calls. So when you call in, very few times do the people that are hosting they don't get sandbagged. Boomer's not getting sandbagged. This was a layup. Some guy making fun of the fact that he puts almond milk in his coffee. Who cares? That's not making fun of Boomer. You want to make fun of Boomer? Say he's a loser. He had a chance to win a Super Bowl and he lost it. He lost to a champion. Boomer's also the same guy that was high-fiving on the sidelines during the Dolphins-Jets game back in the 90s. And 2 people in the stadium knew the game wasn't over. Marv Albert and another great quarterback, Dan Marino. So Boomer's a loser. He's a Super Bowl loser. I wonder how. I was curious. I know how Boomer's. To be honest with you, I know how Boomer's career in broadcasting began. It's not all. He didn't get a job. He did not get a job working at WFAN. That was not his first job. I know his first job was quite embarrassing. But in broadcasting, when he was with the Jets, we won't get into it. But anyway, the 6-foot flannel wearing former NFL MVP and Super Bowl loser to a winner and a real man, Joe Montana. Well, thank you for watching this video. Of course, please subscribe to the Football Hut. And this is another episode of the craziest place on earth, WFAN. The fan.
They're coming to take me away, ha ha. They're coming to take me away, ho ho, hee hee, ha ha. To the funny farm.